like AirPods Max, something like that. So if you ever take the headset off and put it down, it will enter a standby mode after some time, but it won't turn off. If you want to turn it off, you literally have to twist and unplug the cable. That's the only way to actually turn the headset off. Now, famously already, the battery life with this included battery is not super long on this headset. 2 to 4 hours is actually realistic for what you can expect for just like this built-in battery. But that's also kind of right in line with a lot of other VR headsets. Battery life on VR headsets is not that great in general. If you do want to use it longer, the only way to do that is there's a USB-C port on the battery, and you have to plug the battery in. So you could plug the battery into the wall for infinite battery life, or I guess you could plug it into like you could daisy chain another battery into the other pocket or something for even longer life, but yeah, 2 to 4 hours. Now, at first, it seemed weird to me that the port is on the same side of the battery as the non-removable cable, but I think it's because they just want you to default to putting this battery like in your pocket, probably in your back pocket. So even if it's plugged into the wall, it can still be in your back pocket. You're just going to want to get a longer USB-C cable. So there are no controllers that come with this headset. Now, it does support other input methods that are like game controllers and mouse and keyboard, and those can be incredibly useful, but by default, the primary input method for everyone using the Vision Pro is your eyes and your hands. So the first time you put on this headset, it goes through this calibration process, and it's pretty interesting. So the first time you ever put it on, it first adjusts the distance between the lenses, physically moving them inside the headset to match the distance between your eyes. Then it does this sort of a hand scan, so it understands your hands. And then you go through this process of basically looking at a bunch of dots all the way around the screen and then tapping your fingers together to select them. Kind of feels like an eye test or something. And then you're in. So first thing you're going to notice is you can actually kind of put your hands anywhere as long as the headset can see this. Just your fingers touching together. So there's a lot of pictures of people like using the headset with their fingers like out in front of them, pinching like that. But you actually don't have to do that. It's such a wide angle because of the sensors facing forward and sideways and down. You can kind of just rest your hand anywhere in front of you, in your lap. As long as you pinch like that, it can generally pick it up, which is impressive. So you're pinching to control anywhere in that 180-degree bubble in front of you. And then the digital crown, you hit that once, and the app drawer comes up. Pretty simple. Doesn't seem that impressive, but this is actually a peek at the first really impressive thing about this headset to me, which is it seems to have incredible spatial positioning lock. And like, it's really hard to show, like, have you appreciate this through a YouTube video. Reviewing VR headsets is hard, but like turn around in the room you're in and like picture a wall or a window just appearing locked in place in 3D space in your room. And no matter how much you move your head or move around, it stays exactly kind of floating where it's supposed to be. But when I say floating, I think you're picturing like a soft float, but it's locked. And that's how it starts. So now you're in Apple's new Vision OS. I would describe this as kind of similar to iPad OS, but way more glassy, and like, of course, with the extra dimension of 3D space. So hitting the digital crown will always get the app drawer back in front of you, and then simply look at the icon you want and pinch your fingers together to select it and open that app. Scrolling is basically as you'd expect. You just kind of pinch and grab in the air and then pull as if it's on a string, and physics let you pull things through the air. It's pretty intuitive, it's responsive, it's fluid, sometimes it's kind of bouncy even. I would say the biggest adjustment is only being able to control exactly what you're looking at. And I don't think people realize how often they're controlling things that they're not exactly looking directly at with other computers and other UIs. But with this, you can look at the button to select it, and if you look at the next thing you're going to do, you're no longer controlling the button. You have to look exactly where you're trying to interact with things. It takes a few extra brain cycles to remember to always be looking exactly at the thing you're controlling. So when you open a window of a Vision OS app, like any one of the default Apple apps here, it locks into place, it's floating there. It kind of looks, again, like an iPad app, but very glassy, like this frosted glass around the UI sort of lets you see through a little bit to the color behind it. And it even sometimes casts a shadow on the ground in the correct Z space, so it really solidifies that it's floating in front of you. All of this makes it feel like the window is in the space around you. Then, if you look at the bottom of the window, you get a little bar. You can always just look at that bar and pinch to drag it around. So drag it forward, backward, anywhere you want in X, Y, and Z space, and then let go and it just stays absolutely locked. And then you can look at either bottom corner to resize to make it bigger or smaller. And then finally there's a little X at the bottom. You select that, that closes it. So that is the basics of visionOS and just using an app. Now, this entire time, by default, and almost any time they can, pass-through is on, which means you have the headset on, but you can see with the cameras right through to everything around you. And I think this is where Apple really wants to normalize the term spatial computing, because it feels like augmented reality. It feels like you're always able to see the space around you. But technically it's not actually AR, because you are still looking at a reconstructed version through a camera feed of the world around you instead of the actual world around you. But maybe it's all just semantics. I will say this is the best pass-through of any VR headset I have ever used, and it's not even that close. Now again, it's so hard to get this through a YouTube video. It does have screen recording built in, so I'm going to try to use that, but imagine putting a headset on and not really feeling like you're looking at a screen with the real world. Because of the pixel density, because of the 90 Hz refresh rate, and because of the impressive dynamic range of the cameras and the correctly adjusting shutter speed, you just almost just feel like you're looking at the real world, not through a headset. Also, the pass-through is so close to real time that I could legitimately interact with all kinds of things. I could catch items flying at me. I even tried playing ping pong. It was easy, no hesitation. So officially the R1 chip is doing all the processing of all this stuff and adjusting the shutter speed for different lighting conditions and always keeping pass-through latency under 12 milliseconds, which is the lowest in the industry. But it's really combining that with how close to reality the colors and brightness and everything are that keeps it feeling kind of real. Basically, the only noticeable restriction is super close-up items and objects can get a bit blurry, and then you can't quite make out like really small or fine text, so you can't like read an email or tiny text on your phone in your hand, but you can absolutely text people or read your notifications while keeping the headset on. If you've tried other VR headsets, you know how impressive that is. It's really good with the tech that exists now for VR headsets. But you can definitely still take the headset off and be like, oh, it's way brighter in here than I thought it was. Either way, that's all pass-through, but if you ever want to fully immerse yourself, I mean, it is a VR headset after all you gotta do is rotate this digital crown clockwise, just keep turning it, and it will slowly dial your environment more and more into your field of view until you dial it all the way up to fully surrounding you. So all of the windows you might have had open will still stay stuck where they were, but everything you're doing is just on the moon now. So yeah, there's a couple environments Apple has built in here. Most of them relaxing, scenic locations, like in California somewhere, or one really nice one is Mount Hood with a little bit of rain falling. They're not quite photorealistic, but they're just short of photorealistic. Like they're the most realistic digital environment stuck where they were, but so everything you're doing is just quirks on the UI now. So yeah, there's a couple environments. So the only way to get to Control Center is most of them up, relaxing, scenic locations, like turn your head up somewhere, arrow that appears one really nice. So once you see that, you select that, and then you get Control Center. They're things like white battery life, photorealistic, but they're just short and screen recording. Like they're the most realistic digital. But the other big environment stuck where they were, but everything you're doing is just wondering how does text in the UI now. So yeah, Control Center is environment. So the only way to get to Control Center is basically let's say you use the UI. So yeah, Control Center environment. So the only way to get to Control Center is most of them relaxing. There means like white battery in your head somewhere. So once you see that, you select that, and then you get Control Center. They're not like white battery light photorealistic, but they're just short of screen recording. Like they're the most realistic digital. The other big are stuck where they were, but everything you're doing is just wondering how does text in the UI now. So yeah, Control Center is environment. So the only way to get to Control Center is basically let's say you use the Safari. So yeah, Control Center environment. So the only way to get to Control Center is they're not like white battery light photorealistic, but they're just short of screen recording. Like they're the most realistic digital. The other big are stuck where they were, but everything you're doing is just wondering how to be on the right now. So yeah, Control Center environment. So I could get it.